Hello! I'm going to do a quick video on a few hopefully exciting things. I'm going to start with something that's available only in the Wyrd shop in Edinburgh currently, I believe. It wasn't really originally meant to be a thing more than a trial, but we took them along. I took them along actually as gifts, and we decided to see what people thought, and apparently they're quite popular. These are my rune cards. If you have this, or if you can get this, well done. It's very limited edition. These cards, there are 50 of them. There are 50 sheets that I got printed as a kind of test run before I started doing this project. And when I run out of these, I won't do it again. If I print these again, it will be with a professional card manufacturer. I'm going to take you nice and close, if I can, and show you the edges. This is not a I don't know what the word for it is. These have been cut out by me, yeah? It's not a machine or a professional cut. So, you know, take them as they are, but know that they are an extremely limited collection of these cards. What to note about them? One thing that definitely occurred to me, and one thing I'm definitely saying to anybody who buys them, is please have a look at them first. As I said, I am literally doing this by hand, so do make sure you love them. And the other thing I'd say is that if you do fall in love with them, do remember that the runes work perfectly well on lolly sticks and stuff like that. Think of them as a stepping stone, as a learning tool, as opposed to something that you keep going forever, and something that you need to feel really sad about when they stop looking nice and stuff like that. Obviously they do have pictures. They are oracular cards within their own right, but you know, the runes are the runes, yeah? So that is the only bit you need. Right, on to my next project. I'm going to say things as I remember them, as opposed to when it's relevant, I'm afraid. That's the back of the cards. And let's turn one over. King of Hearts. So that side's going to be the major arcana. If you're watching this video and thinking how unprofessional it is, wait until you see the one I tried to do in the garden, and you'll know why I'm doing it like this. Yeah, I do think they've come out pretty. These are a prototype thing. They are not what's the word? Different kind of prototype. You know, obviously I've had these printed, but I've had these printed in a kind of non-commercial way, so they're not available to the public. And that's a good thing, because printed the way they're printed right now, you can't afford them. They're really expensive. I think that cost about 50 quid to get this deck. And adding to that, I'd like to thank a couple of people. I've been doing this project. I've got a little routine. When I did a card, I would I'd read a bit. I'd go and do some research, grab some cards and stuff like that, but I'd also watch YouTube videos, and I really liked Tarot Ingi's tarot videos, great refreshers. I'd also say it's good, you know, I watched quite a few tarot videos, and it's really good to get different people's angles on what's going on. Researching this deck, I've tended to aim prior to the Rider-Waite. I have a huge amount of respect for the Rider-Waite, but I found that many of the decks after the Rider-Waite are so influenced by the Rider-Waite that you're just reiterating the Rider-Waite, and I wanted to go for something much more inverted commas traditional. I'm going for the old French decks. When I could, I leaned quite heavily on, I think it's the James VI deck, and I also lent on the Visconti Sforza deck, although I'd say that the deck with the major arcana, I definitely lent towards the Marseille deck, although other decks, you know, I had quite a large list of decks. The most modern was the Crowley Thoth, which is ironic because I used to have that deck and I actually never really gelled with it. It's a beautiful deck, but I never felt that I really got much meaningful out of it personally. It's meant to be a very traditional deck. I'll hold one up so that you can laugh at the idiocy of my saying that, because it does have modern imagery in it. There's a pylon in the back of that one if you look carefully, and I'll see if I can find something else that's quite ridiculously comedy modern. Yeah, I forgot my other thank you, and that's so relevant right now, although I can't find it. That's the King of Hearts. Where is it? Thanks also to Argonaut Books. I spent a lot of time drawing these cards and having cups of coffee, and indeed chatting about the cards. Well, there you go. You can tell I've not prepared for this video, because I was going to say, and you know, one of the funny things is that in the cup, the Knave of Cups, there's a fire hydrant, and we had a bit of a joke about that, because he said, why don't you stick in a fire hydrant, and it seemed like a good idea, actually. Other things worthy of note? I will have talked about the style of these before. I should probably briefly mention it. The style's fairly simple. They all actually start as just black and white images. I think it looks great though, you know. I don't regret it. There was a time when, although they were still black and white images, I was doing some quite heavy texture work on them, and I'm totally happy with the flat colour. Ironically, they look great. I don't know what these will eventually look like, and I guess that's fairly important to mention, because I am asking and looking about publishers, and if I do find a publisher, there is a huge likelihood that they will have their own vision as to what looks good, and I'm totally up for that. People who know me while I was doing this deck will know that I asked 1,000 questions. One of the things that I like to think about this deck is that it's not particularly me. It is a tarot deck, and you know, I can go off and I can dive into my mystical, magical self, and pick images, but that's not what this is. This is a tarot deck. It is a tradition. It's a thing. And whilst, like I said, I have got modern elements in here, tradition always wins. Which brings me, if I haven't mentioned it, to the number cards. You may have already noticed that these number cards are indeed numbers. The explanation for that is actually not that I couldn't be bothered drawing pictures for each one, but that I personally would like at least to have a traditional version of this deck where you have numbers and there are no pictures, because while I was researching this, I literally found one deck that predates the Rider-Waite that had pictures on a per card basis for the pip cards, and it's the Solabusca, which is in itself an odd tarot deck, but also it happens to be the tarot deck with picture cards that Pamela Coleman Smith saw just before she did the Rider-Waite, which means that if I use them, I'm trusting I'm trusting a source of one. Yeah, I have nothing else to base anything I do, and like I said, I'm very much focused on this being a traditional something. I did my one deviation from the Marseille deck, from the Visconti deck, the very early decks, and the Swiss deck, is that I have gone for slightly bolder and less obtuse number systems. I've gone for something more akin to dice. There is still a decision that I've made as to what kind of shape these numbers create, but I want them to be blatantly obvious as you first look at them. I've also, I don't know whether I can show this to you. I'm going to try. Focus, 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 focus. If I get close enough, you should see that my deniers, or pentacles, note that I've used the flower motif of the denier to bring the pentacles out, have diamonds in the middle. And also notice that I've marked them in the corners like English playing cards. Why have I done this? Again, well, not again. I've known fortune tellers who used playing cards for fortune telling, but at the same time, one of my ideas with this deck is that it was to be something that you could use for work and play. I really like the idea. I haven't got clubs in here, but if you look at the noble cards, the royal cards, you should find clubs. I think he's got it on his necklace. I've actually forgotten right now. Yeah, the clubs are the one, the batons are the one exception to the rule. I've done the hearts, the épée, the swords. If you look very closely at near the hilt, you'll find a spade. So yeah, they're playing cards. I don't know how well I explained that. I'll do it again. Just because it's sacred doesn't mean you can't play games with it. What more can I add? You know, don't trust me, but I think they look lovely. Oh, the devil. Oh, death. Oh, le pendu. I've given them French names. That is literally because the decks that I was working the most closely with were French. It's fun because one of the things that happened to me was that I decided at one point that if I was going to do English, calling the names Jack seems so nice, because you've got all of the Jack legends, and the Jack characters are so Jack and the Beanstalk. So, important note, I'm a pagan, but I haven't dodged the Christian elements of tarot. There are definitely Christian elements of tarot. Again, my logic is, this is the tarot, it is not my tarot. So I've been very faithful to the degree of doing stuff that, you know, isn't particularly part of my cultural remit. So there we go. I've talked much more about this one now than I have about this one. But I guess that's not surprising, because I've you know, there's a whole book for this if you want to know about these. Don't worry about it. James Flowerdew. The Runes are Grounding in Northern Magic on Amazon. Well, there we go. Thank you for your time.